was hilarious.
Well, if there's a political Hall of Fame, Mercedes Schlapp might be in there.
She might be in there.
Been in politics for a long time, and we're going to talk a little bit with her in a moment about the president's tweet, where he said if the radical left, Democrats, all of a sudden don't want the illegal migrants in their sanctuary cities, no more open arms, why should others be expected to take them into their communities, go home, and come into our country legally and through a system of merit?
Yes, let's bring in Mercedes Schlapp, White House Director of Strategic Communications. Mercedes, good morning. Thanks for being here with us. So the president is saying, listen, if our laws are going to be this open, if our border can't be closed because Congress won't do its job, we'll help transport illegals coming to this country to sanctuary cities. Your reaction?
Right. I mean, the president is strongly considering this option. We're looking at all options from an administrative standpoint. I mean, when you look at the fact that our border, we're overwhelmed. Our border agents are overwhelmed. We're at a breaking point. Even former Obama Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson said we have a crisis. It's not a manufactured crisis. And they put all this strain, the illegal aliens, and put the strain on our border communities. So why not have these sanctuary cities step up and help in this process, since, as you said, they're about open borders, they're about open arms. Until we get a legislative fix in Congress and until Democrats step up to the plate and get something done to help control the chaos and crisis we're seeing at the border, we're gonna need help coming from these sanctuary cities.
Mercedes, on Thursday, your colleague at the White House, Hogan Gidley, told reporters that this plan to move illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities had been considered in November and was rejected. He told reporters, do not take this plan seriously. This morning, you're telling our viewers, take this plan as a possibility seriously. How does that work?
Well, first of all, that discussion that occurred was mostly between advisors. It was conversations that we had between the White House and the Department of Homeland Security. In speaking with the president said, let's look into this. You know, at the end of the day, the President of the United States is the one who is going to determine what our immigration policy is. I think, as you know, President Trump has been leading on this issue. He's the one that has warned repeatedly that we need to take action in ensuring that we're able to secure the border. It's not just only building the wall, but the mere fact that we need to ensure that we close these legal loopholes, that it's creating a magnet. So we keep seeing a surge of illegal immigrants coming through the border. I mean, you're talking that our Border Patrol agents are apprehending about 4,000 illegal aliens a day. I mean, those are strong numbers. You're talking about 103,000 illegal aliens that were apprehended in the month of March. We could get to about 1 million by the end of the year. And so you have to ask yourself, the nonprofit organizations are at capacity. Our government resources are being overwhelmed and at capacity, and it's being outpaced by this surge that we're seeing at the border.
Mercedes, a new Washington Post op-ed titled, "Mr. President, We Aren't Afraid of Migrants Here" by Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin. It states Seattle is not afraid of immigrants and refugees. In fact, we have always welcomed people who have faced tremendous hardships around the world. What does scare us? A president and federal government that would seek to weaponize a law enforcement agency to punish perceived political enemies. Now, here you see, Mercedes, the conflation of legal and illegal immigration, something Democrats are known to do all of the time. What's your reaction when you see something like that?
Look, it's purely offensive. I mean, the reality is we are a nation of immigrants, but we want to have a legal immigration system. We don't want the smugglers or the coyotes or the drug cartels abusing our immigration laws and dictating who is coming into our country. Let me tell you, open borders exploits children. What we have seen, and I got a briefing yesterday on this, what we have seen in terms of unaccompanied minors who are put in the hands of people who have abused these children and end up in a situation where these children are endangered, not only through the journey, but even getting here to the United States is troubling, and it needs to be stopped. So if the Democrats are for protecting children and the safety of children, if the Democrats are for bringing immigrants into this country, which we agree, we want legal immigration, then we have to fix the system. And that's going to require the help of the Democrats. The Democrats, however, have pushed a radical agenda of open borders. And so they need to ask themselves, do they want to protect children? If so, we need to ensure that we're able to fix our immigration laws and also ensure that we're securing the border.
Well, as you know full well, the 2020 race on the Democrat side is heating up. One of those candidates, Beto Robert Francis O'Rourke, had some words to say He was talking to David Axelrod, who hosts a podcast and appears on CNN once a month. This is what Beto O'Rourke had to say yesterday. Listen.
Donald Trump is the arsonist who gets the credit for putting out the fire. He is going to cause worse outmigration and asylum seeking from Central America by cutting off all U.S. aid, and then he wants to be the person who gets the credit for stopping it. What we need is someone who will not play games or politics with people's lives or the security of this country, but will invest in the smart decisions and policies like investing in Central America to stop the outflow before it even begins.
Mercedes, we've been investing in Central America for decades, yet this problem has gotten worse and is now on our border. Is that a winning message to say that the president's an arsonist and we need to invest more in Central America?
Look, the president is a realist. He sees clearly what's happening in the border. He's talked to the Border Patrol agents who are risking their lives every day. In many cases, they save the lives of illegal aliens coming in through the border. So let's be real. The reality is that the Democrats want to continue an open borders agenda. They're not wanting to figure out who is coming in, who's not coming in. I am telling you, these smugglers, these drug cartels, they are the ones dictating our policies. They're the ones deciding who's coming in. Those families, those vulnerable families, they pay these smugglers $7,000 to come over to the United States because they know that our immigration laws are so weak. We have barely done little to change our immigration laws since the 1960s. There needs to be an overhaul in terms of ensuring that we're able to fix this broken system and ensure that we also are able to secure the border. That is because we don't want, and again, there are the vulnerable families coming in, but let them come in through a legal process. Let's set that up. My father was a political prisoner. He applied for political asylum. He was facing political persecution in his country. He came in legally. That's a right way to do it. We want to ensure that we can bring in legal immigrants that then match our economic needs here in America while we're protecting the American worker. This is common sense. This is not complicated.
Well, your personal story important to add to the debate as well, and we're glad that you mentioned that. Another big thing happening as well, Kevin McAleenan, of course, is now the acting director of Homeland Security. But before he got that post, there's a story that broke overnight, and many media outlets are claiming this to be true. And so we want to get your reaction that the president privately told Kevin McAleenan during his visit to the border a week or so ago down in the California area that the president told Kevin that he wanted him to go ahead and shut down at least part of our southern border, and that if he encountered any legal trouble, it was no big deal because the president would pardon him.
Look, I think the Department of Homeland Security addressed this. That is not an accurate story. At the end of the day, what the president wants to do and his focus is to ensure that we had leadership in place focused on trying to do what we can from an administrative standpoint to secure the border. We recognize that there is a need for there to be a legislative solution. This will require Democrats to come on board and come up with how we're going to fix the legal loopholes. That's the priority, and that is what we're focused on. This president has been a leader on this issue, and he's talked about it from the sense that we've seen criminals coming through the border. We've seen drugs coming through the border. This is impacting not just the border communities, but communities across the country. And it is a moment in time that we need to take action. And the Democrats have to put the politics aside, their extreme agenda aside, and come together and work with us to ensure that we're able to fix this decades-old immigration system.
Mercedes, we've been talking about the possibility of another nuclear summit with North Korea. The president just moments ago tweeting about this very issue, saying, "I agree with Kim Jong-un of North Korea that our personal relationship remains very good. Perhaps the term excellent would be even more accurate, and that a third summit would be good, and that we fully understand where each stand." North Korea has tremendous potential for extraordinary growth, economic success, and riches under the leadership of Chairman Kim. I look forward to the day, which could be soon, when nuclear weapons and sanctions can be removed, and then watching North Korea become one of the most successful nations of the world. Your reaction?
Well, I think that for President Trump, his focus has been the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Obviously, what we do know is that they have not launched any missiles since the president has engaged in having these discussions with the North Korean president. So I think the key here is we want to continue making progress. That is the goal. As we know, this is an incredibly complicated issue that presidents in the past haven't been able to manage correctly. We know under President Trump's leadership, we're going to be moving in the right direction. But as the president said, we're going to keep those sanctions in place. This is important to keep putting pressure on the North Koreans to say, you know, let go of your nuclear arms. Let's move into more stability in that region.
Mercedes Schlapp, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mercedes.
Thanks for coming in.
Good stuff.
President Trump weighing a proposal to bus immigrant detainees to sanctuary cities, triggering a Twitter battle between the president and Oakland, California Mayor Libby Schaaf. Some might recall the Democrat made headlines back in February after warning that Northern California residents, she told them about an impending ICE raid. This all comes as monthly apprehensions hit a 12-year high along the U.S.-Mexico border. Joining me right now is South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He is a member of the Appropriations, Foreign Relations, and Budget Committees. And Senator, it is always a pleasure and honor to have you on the program. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the border crisis first off, because we have news this week. In fact, President Trump's acting defense secretary says that more support from the U.S. military will be headed to the southern border. Patrick Shanahan would not say how many more troops would be needed to assist the Department of Homeland Security, but they are headed there as we are looking at 1 million apprehensions this year. What's your reaction?
Right. Well, 3 weeks ago, the Democrats were saying this was a manufactured crisis. Now they don't want these folks dropped off in Oakland or San Francisco. So the good news for the country is that both parties see this as a real crisis. If I were the president, I'd send military troops to the border as soon as I could in large numbers. But we're never going to stop this by just having walls and troops at the border. We have to change our laws so these people stop coming. There's a narrative in Central America that if you can get to America with a minor child, you will never get deported, and we have to change that storyline.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point that you make, which is why I want to get to the breaking news right now, which I know that you are going to deliver. You are on recess right now, but when you come back to Washington, you are planning to put together proposals to change the law. Can you tell us about that, sir?
Yeah, I'm tired of talking about this problem. I want to fix it. I think all Americans should want both parties to fix this problem. The president has correctly identified the crisis at the border. Now it's time to have a legislative solution. You need to change our laws for this to stop. So I'll be introducing a package, and hopefully with Democratic support, that will change our asylum laws. 90% of the people who apply for asylum never make it, so the standard needs to change. We have a court decision called the Flores decision that says you can only hold a minor child 20 days. If a family comes here with a minor child, we release the entire family after 20 days because we don't have bed space, so we need to change that decision. And also we have a quirk in our law that if you're from Central America, you cannot be sent back home as a minor child because of a law on the books that prohibits sending children back from non-contiguous countries. So the only place that we can send a child back to is Mexico and Canada. We need to be sending these kids back to Central America where they come from. So I'm going to put a legislative package together right after the break. We're going to mark it up in the Judiciary Committee, and we're going to get on with solving this problem.
All right, so you're going to put this legislative package together, then you're going to bring it to a vote. That gets everybody on board, and we know where people voted. And so it will be on the record in terms of who stands where.
Yeah, I hope we do more than just vote. I hope we solve the problem. The administration is going around Congress talking to Democrats about what they want. If we do change the laws, what would they like in return? I'm going to try to find a compromise here. The president's a great deal maker, but doing what we're doing is not working. The crisis has to come to an end, and the only way to bring it to an end is to change our laws, and I will be introducing the package to change the laws that attract so many illegal immigrants from Central America, and hopefully we'll get some Democratic support.
So tell us about these three issues that are most important that you're going to affect change. There's the Flores decision, there's TVPRA, and then asylum standards. Can you walk us through why we have these laws on the books?
Number one, we're part of the International Asylum Treaty that gives people asylum when they're under threat of life and limb. Under international law, you're supposed to apply for asylum in the first safe country you go to, which would be Mexico if you're from Honduras, Guatemala, or El Salvador. So the president's putting pressure on Mexico to stop these caravans. But if you get 1 foot in the United States and you read a card claiming asylum, you're entitled to a hearing. We don't have bed space to hold you until that hearing date, so we release you into the country and people never come back for the hearing. So let's toughen up our asylum standard. If 90% are failing to meet the standard needs to change. So that's number one. Number two, the Flores decision needs to change. It's impossible to do a hearing in 20 days. So we're going to try to change the time you can hold a unaccompanied minor or a minor child beyond 20 days, because if you come up with a family and you've got minor kids in the family, we release the whole family in 20 days because you don't want to separate families. So we need to fix the Flores decision. Finally, there's a quirk in the law that if you're from Central America as a minor child, we can't send you back. We need to change that law so we can send them back to Central America where they came from.
Yeah, we're looking at a map right now of this triangle countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. And the immigration flow has really changed, Senator. Walk us through that. Is it true that now 70% of the people that are showing up at our borders are coming from this triangle group of countries?
Yes, because the word is out on the street in these countries that if you bring a minor child with you, you're never going to get deported because, again, let's walk this through. A minor child can only be held for 20 days under our law, the Flores decision. If a family of 4 comes, a mother and father and 2 minor children, we have to release the kids within 20 days. If you don't want to separate the families, that means you release the mom and the dad and they never show up for the hearing. We don't have bed space to detain them until their hearing date. So that's a problem. Everybody in Central America knows if you come to the United States and set 1 foot on American soil and claim asylum, you're entitled to a hearing. We don't have enough bed space to hold you. We don't have enough asylum judges, immigration judges. Hearings take 2 or 3 years. You're let go, and they never show up. So word's out from Central America. If you get here with a minor child or claim asylum, you're going to stay, and we need to change that narrative.
Unbelievable. So, Senator, what's the timing on this? You're going to come back from recess. You're going to be putting this legislation together. You're going to sit with the White House to get to see where they are on this. Can you tell us when we should expect this legislative package?
We're working on it as I speak over the break with the White House. I've got to get a package that will deter people from Central America from continuing to come, change our asylum laws, make sure you have more than 20 days to deal with an unaccompanied minor, and you can send people back to Central America. It's got to be a bill the president will sign. Once we get agreement between myself and the White House and Senator Johnson, the Homeland Security Chairman, who has some jurisdiction here, we'll put together a package. We'll sit down with our Democratic colleagues and try to figure out a deal that will stop this madness. We need troops at the border. We need a wall, but there is no way you're going to stop the flow from Central America until you change our laws. And these laws are insane. We need to change them.